No caffeine? Problem. So I've been watching the show Daredevil recently. Yes, I know, welcome to 2015. It really got me thinking about the type of hero that people prefer to watch. That type of hero is what we call the unassuming hero. And they seem just like a normal person, and that's relatable to us because we could see ourselves in the same situation. What makes Daredevil a compelling, unassuming hero is that his alter ego, Matt Murdock, is a quiet, soft-spoken lawyer who happens to be blind. A blind guy is probably not who you would expect to be beating up criminals in a back alley. This is a really common trope. Think about Neville Longbottom in the Harry Potter series, or Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back. These are really unassuming characters that you wouldn't think much of, but they go on to be extraordinary and do extraordinary things. Let's apply this idea to the unexpected hero in circuit theory, the supernode. What we see at first glance is just a voltage source between two nodes. This seems simple enough because we really know how to deal with voltage sources. The issue here comes from the fact that we don't actually know what the current is through that voltage source, and that is essential to performing KCL, which is a part of nodal analysis. Oh heck. So what can we do? What makes this supernode so special? Let's start first by defining what the supernode is going to be, and then we're going to talk about its hidden qualities. Let's define a supernode as a voltage source between two nodes and the nodes it connects to. Let's talk about the hidden abilities of the supernode. The first is that in a supernode we have a constraint on the node voltages. In other words, what that means is that the difference in node voltages has to equal to the voltage source between them. Let's understand this by observing what happens across a voltage source connected on one side to ground. It is clear that the voltage at the node directly above the source, which we'll call VA, is equal to the source voltage, or in other words, VA minus 0 equals to VS. Now let's replace ground with a name, let's say VB. Then we will see that VA minus VB equals V source. This works the same way for a supernode, where we put plus, the side with the plus sign, minus the side with the minus sign, equals the voltage source value. Number 2, a supernode follows KCL. That means that the current coming into the supernode has to equal to the current going out of the supernode. We'll see this more clearly in our example later on. Finally, 3. Anything in parallel with the supernode can be ignored. That's because when I have anything in parallel with the supernode, the current both comes out and goes back into the supernode, and these cancel out. Why is this so super? Well, it's super because one supernode gives us two equations. So if I have just two node voltages I care about, then I have both of my equations right away. Or if there are more node voltages, either way, I'm going to get a 2-for-1 deal. So let's do an example. Let's find the node voltages in the circuit. We start with our acronym, step 1 being assign. We assign node voltages, identify the supernode, and assign current names. I name the currents based on the nodes they are traveling between. Next, we go to step 2, apply. Here we'll first write the constraint equation, which tells me that V1 on the positive side minus V2 on the negative side must equal the voltage source between, which is 8 volts. We also need to apply KCL at the supernode. We get that 2 amps comes in and I10 and I20 go out. Writing the Ohm's law expressions for these currents, we see that I10 is V1 minus 0 over 2 and I20 is V2 minus 0 over 4. Plugging these in and multiplying through by 4, we arrive at 8 minus 2V1 minus V2 equals 0. Moving the voltages to the opposite side, we get 2V1 plus V2 equals to 8. Now on to step 3, solve. I'll use MATLAB, but you could use any method you'd like to solve the simultaneous equations. Writing the equations in matrix form, we get 1 minus 1 on the first row and 2, 1 on the second row. And then our vector of unknowns, which is V1 and V2, and all of this is equal to the vector 8, 8. We simply need to multiply A inverse by B to get our desired unknowns. Plugging this into MATLAB, we get that V1 is 5.33 volts and V2 is negative 2.67 volts. We can write these down and notice that the process is almost the same as normal nodal analysis, we just have to follow the special abilities of the supernode. So, if you underestimated supernodes, if you found supernodes scary at all, hopefully now you have a better understanding. Again, what makes a supernode so cool is that it gives us a 2-for-1 expression. If you think I've earned it, I would love it if you would share this video with someone else and if you would subscribe. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at BD McPheron. This is Dr. McPheron. That's all for now.